Alright, when you finish building all 4 walls on your box and you have smoothed out the sides and you turned it and checked that every edge is as smooth and neat as you can get it, before you make your lid, you have to make sure your walls are all the same height, because if one wall is taller than another, your lid will not sit even. So if you want help doing that, I can help you, or you can take your knife tool and you can trim down your walls so that they're all the same height. Then, before you make your lid, you need to check and see that this stencil fits your box. So when I set this stencil on top of my box, it still fits, so I can use that for my lid. However, some of you, when you made your walls, they stretched, and now the top of your box is no longer the same size as the stencil. So if you put your stencil on top and it does not fit, here's how you have to make your lid piece. You're going to roll out another slab of clay. For those of you that can use the paper stencil, put your paper stencil down and cut that out just like you did for your first slab. But for those of you whose paper stencil does not fit anymore, you're going to take your box and you're going to turn it upside down. And your box has to fit on top of the slab. If your slab is too small, you need to re-roll that with more clay. Then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife tool and I'm lightly going to draw along the edge of the box. I'm not cutting through the clay, I'm just drawing lines around the side of the clay. So on all 4 sides, I'm going to trace the box. Then I'm going to take the box off the slab, and I should be able to see the lines that I lightly drew. Now I'm going to finish cutting through the clay. And the reason why I take the box off to cut is because I don't want to accidentally cut through the walls of my box. And then when you finish cutting, check that that piece matches the top of your box. So remember, you turned your box upside down to trace, so you have to take that piece you cut and turn it over to line it up to check that it matches. If it matches, now you're ready to move on to your tiki. So you're going to move your box off to the side and your lid off to the side. You're going to take the photocopy of your tiki drawing and a Crayola marker. What you're going to do is you're going to draw over the top of your design . And you want to make sure that you outline all the lines that you drew. And it's okay if the lines go off the edge slightly. It won't make that big of a difference. And make sure you're using Crayola and not a Sharpie. Sharpie is permanent, so it won't print. Don't worry about tracing the outside edge of the rectangle. And I made a photocopy for a reason, so if you make a mistake, you've got your original that you can take out and use that one, or if your photocopy one gets lost or falls apart, you've got a backup from the original drawing. And just let me know if you need me to make a second photocopy. Okay, when I'm done outlining with marker, now I'm ready to print that design on my slab of clay. So I'm going to leave my paper on the table. I'm going to take my slab, and as best as I can, I'm going to center that on top of the printed rectangle. If your clay piece is larger than the printed rectangle, don't worry about it. You can still do this printing. Then what I'm going to do is lightly pat that down And I'm going to put one hand on the clay and one hand under the paper. I'm going to flip that over. And now I'm really going to start to massage the back of the paper, because what's happening right now is the marker is printing on top of the clay. Then I'm going to peel back some of the paper to check the clay. If the marker did not transfer, so right here I didn't transfer, I'm going to set that back on top and I'm going to press a little harder right here until that marker makes a print. I'm going to peel back another corner to see if that copied. And it did copy. So now I've got a copy of my design on top of my clay. This is the lid piece to the box. So this piece you are actually just going to set aside with another scrap of clay. You're going to cut out a second stencil. And you're going to make another print. So, take your second slab, put your paper down, line that up, flip that over, and then do another set. Okay, the reason why we do 2 copies. A requirement of this project was that you had to have at least 4 raised up areas on your lid. So the first one I made is my lid. The second copy, these are pieces that I'm going to cut out and attach to the top of the lid. So you had to make a plan ahead of time of what 4 areas you wanted to be raised up. So if I know that I want my eyeballs to be raised up, I'm going to take my knife tool and I'm going to cut out that entire piece. Now I'm going to go back to my first slab, that's my lid. This piece should match if you cut it out precisely. Now what I'm going to do is get my toothbrush and I'm going to score slip stick smooth. So I'm going to brush where those pieces attach. My marker line should show me where I need to brush. Then I have to brush the back side, and now I'm going to stick. Then if you've got extra slip that squeezes out of the sides, you can use your finger and wipe that off, or you can use a wooden tool and wipe that off. And that's how you'll proceed to create your 3D pieces, cutting them out from the second slab, attaching them to the first slab. Then, when you've got those pieces decided, then you're going to carve in the details of the other designs. You can use a needle tool to carve or an ink pen to carve. So, if I want my eyeball line right here to be carved in, I'm just going to take an ink pen and I'm going to draw that line. And I'm going to take an ink pen here and draw that line. So those just became carved details. The marker disappears. When your clay gets fired, the marker disappears, so you're not going to see any marker on your final design. So any line that you drew in marker has to be carved, or you have to cut out and attach clay on top. Otherwise, those design elements will not be seen on your final project.